Dude, you're still playing that game? Sophia's voice, laced with a mix of amusement and disdain, cut through the satisfying clang of virtual steel on virtual bone. I barely registered it. My eyes were glued to the screen, my fingers flying across the keyboard, my mind completely immersed in the world of Elder Spire Online. Almost got him, I muttered, dodging a fiery blast from the abyssal worm, my character, a battle-scarred warrior named Kale, narrowly avoiding a fiery death. Just there. The worm roared its final defiance before collapsing in a heap of pixelated scales and smoke, showering me with a glorious loot explosion of shimmering weapons and armor. Yes! I pumped my fist in the air, a triumphant grin spreading across my face. Finally, the obsidian blade, after months of grinding. Months of grinding, Sophia echoed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. For a virtual sword. Meanwhile, in the real world... Yeah, I interrupted, already sorting through the worm's treasure trove. Real-world bills, responsibilities, blah, blah, blah. I get it. Sophia sighed, the sound a mix of exasperation and something else. Something that sounded suspiciously like pity. Lucas, she said, her voice softening slightly, don't you ever want more? More than just this? She gestured vaguely at my setup. The high-end gaming PC, the ergonomic chair, the multiple monitors displaying the sprawling landscapes and epic battles of Elder Spire Online. What do you mean? I asked, genuinely confused. Elder Spire was more than just a game to me. It was a world, a community, a challenge. It was where I excelled, where I felt alive. I mean, a real life, Sophia said, her voice taking on that familiar, patronizing tone. A career, a future, something meaningful. This is meaningful, I protested, holding up the obsidian blade, its virtual surface gleaming in the dim light of my room. This took skill, strategy, dedication. Dedication to a video game, Sophia scoffed. Lucas, you're wasting your life. You have so much potential, but you're throwing it all away on this masterpiece of digital art and immersive storytelling? I offered, a playful grin tugging at my lips. Sophia rolled her eyes, the gesture a familiar punctuation to our conversations. She just didn't get it. She couldn't. She was all about the real world, the corporate ladder, the pursuit of power and status. Me? I found my power in Elder Spire. I knew its secrets, its hidden mechanics, its lore. I was a legend in that world, a force to be reckoned with. And as I logged back into Elder Spire, the familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins as I prepared to lead my guild into another epic raid, I couldn't help but think, maybe the real world was the one missing out. You're kidding, right? Sophia's voice, sharp and incredulous, cut through my post-raid euphoria. I'd just led my guild to victory against a particularly challenging world boss in Elder Spire, and the adrenaline was still buzzing in my veins. Nope, I grinned, leaning back in my chair. Cleared the whole instance. Got the legendary staff drop too. Want to see? Sophia, perched on the edge of my bed, her perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on her phone, barely glanced up. Not really, Lucas. Listen, I have something important to tell you. My grin faltered. Sophia's important pronouncements usually involved some new achievement in her corporate world, some promotion or bonus that was designed to subtly remind me of my own lack of real-world success. Okay, I said, my voice cautious. What's up? She took a deep breath, her expression a mix of guilt and something else. Something that looked suspiciously like satisfaction. I got the job, Lucas, she announced, her voice a carefully modulated blend of excitement and something else. Condescension? What job? I asked, confused. The one at Vance Industries, she said, as if it were obvious. The marketing lead position, remember? The one you were... She trailed off, a smirk playing on her lips. My stomach dropped. Vance Industries, the dream job, the one I had been researching for weeks, the one I had meticulously crafted a cover letter and resumed for, the one I had confided in Sophia about. But I I stammered, my mind reeling, the pieces clicking into place with a sickening clarity. "Oh, Lucas," she said, her voice dripping with faux sympathy. "Don't tell me you were actually going to apply for that? You? With your gaming habits?" "But you knew." I started to protest, but she cut me off. "I knew you were delusional," she said, her voice hardening. "You spend all your time in that fantasy world, Lucas. You have no idea how the real world works. You were never going to get that job." "But you used my ideas," I said, the realization hitting me like a punch to the gut. "The campaign strategies, the market analysis, I told you about those." "Borrowed," she corrected, her voice cold, dismissive. "And improved upon, obviously. Besides, you were never going to use them, were you? You're too busy slaying dragons and collecting virtual trinkets." The words stung, a cruel reminder of my perceived inadequacy in the real world. Sophia, with her ambition, her drive, her ruthless pursuit of success, had used me, exploited my knowledge, my passion, to further her own career. You stole my future," I said, my voice a hollow whisper. "You were never going to make it anyway, Lucas," she said, her voice devoid of any remorse. "You waste too much time playing games." And with that, she walked out, leaving me sitting there amidst the flickering lights of my virtual world, the obsidian blade suddenly feeling heavy in my hand, a symbol of my failure, my insignificance, my powerlessness. The apartment was silent, suffocatingly so. Sophia's perfume lingered in the air, a mocking reminder of her presence, her betrayal, her parting words echoing in my ears. "You were never going to make it anyway, Lucas." I stared at the screen, the vibrant world of Elder Spire Online suddenly seeming dull, lifeless. Even the obsidian blade, my hard-won trophy, failed to spark any joy. What was the point? Sophia was right. I was a failure, a loser, a gamer who couldn't even compete in the real world. "Game over, Kale," I muttered, my voice heavy with despair. I logged into Elder Spire, the familiar loading screen a brief respite from the crushing weight of reality. But even the sprawling landscapes, the epic battles, the camaraderie of my guildmates couldn't fully distract me from the gaping hole Sophia had left in my life, and the future she had stolen. "Kale, you all right, man?" A message popped up from Grognak, my orc warrior buddy and second in command in our guild, the Abyssal Raiders. "Yeah, fine," I typed back, forcing a casual tone. "Just having a rough day?" "Sophia again?" Grognak asked, his virtual empathy surprisingly accurate. "How'd you know?" "Dude, it's like clockwork. Every time she throws one of her real-world tantrums, you go all emo in-game." I sighed. He wasn't wrong. Sophia had a knack for making me feel like a failure, for highlighting my perceived inadequacies in the real world. And Elder Spire was my escape, my refuge, the place where I could be someone, achieve something, be powerful. But even Elder Spire couldn't fully shield me from the pain, the betrayal, the crushing weight of Sophia's ambition. I wandered through the virtual world, my usual enthusiasm replaced by a listless apathy. The quests felt meaningless, the battles pointless, the loot, just pixels on a screen. "Maybe she's right," I muttered to myself, as I watched Kale stand motionless on a virtual clifftop, the wind whipping through his pixelated hair. "Maybe I am wasting my life." The thought was a bitter pill to swallow, a surrender to the doubts that Sophia had so expertly planted in my mind. Was this all I was? A gamer, a nobody, a failure in the real world? I logged out, the harsh glare of my monitor a stark contrast to the immersive world I had just left behind. The apartment felt even more oppressive now, the silence deafening. I sank onto the couch, the weight of my despair pressing down on me. "Game over, Lucas?" I whispered, the words echoing in the emptiness. And as I closed my eyes, the image of Sophia's triumphant smile, the memory of her condescending words, the realization of my stolen future, It all came crashing down on me, burying me beneath a wave of despair. The insistent chirping of birds dragged me from a restless sleep. Groaning, I rolled over, intending to pull the pillow over my head and drown out the goddamn dawn chorus. But something was off. The light filtering through the blinds was wrong. Golden. Intense. Like the world was bathed in honey. "What the—" I mumbled, stumbling towards the window. And then I saw it. A massive pillar of golden light erupting from the horizon, reaching towards the sky like a celestial beacon. It pulsed with an energy that made my skin prickle, my hair stand on end. "Holy crap," I breathed, my sleep-fogged brain struggling to process the impossible. "What is that?" The light intensified, engulfing the city in a golden haze. The buildings across the street seemed to shimmer, distort, their familiar shapes blurring, twisting into something different. Spiky towers, crenellated walls, banners flapping in a non-existent wind. Am I still dreaming? I rubbed my eyes, but the vision remained. The world was changing, transforming, morphing into something familiar. Then it hit me. The architecture, the colors, the feel of it all. No freaking way. I scrambled for my phone, my fingers fumbling as I navigated to the news app. The headline screamed in bold, all-caps hysteria. "Worldwide phenomenon. Reality shift. Is this the end?" The articles were a jumbled mess of speculation and fear-mongering. Some claimed it was an alien invasion, others a divine intervention. No one seemed to have any real answers. Except me. I knew exactly what was happening. I raced to my computer, my heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. The golden light was still intensifying, the world outside my window becoming more and more fantastical. And then I saw it. A notification flashing across my screen, the familiar logo of Elder Spire Online pulsing with an eerie glow. Emergency server announcement. Merge complete. Welcome to Elder Spire Online. The words hung in the air, a digital confirmation of the impossible. The game had become reality. The world I had spent countless hours exploring, battling, and mastering was now the world I lived in. Holy crap! My initial fear gave way to a surge of something else. Excitement? Anticipation? Maybe a little bit of both. This was insane, terrifying, world-altering, and undeniably, incredibly cool. I looked out the window, the familiar cityscape now replaced by a sprawling fantasy landscape, complete with towering forests, shimmering rivers, and... were those... dragons? "Game on?" I whispered, a grin spreading across my face. This was my world now. A world I knew, a world I understood, a world where well, let's just say I had a bit of a head start. While the rest of the world was losing its collective mind, I was having a gamer moment. A big one. This wasn't some bug, some glitch. This was Elder Spire, for real. And that meant everything I knew, every hour I'd wasted, every secret I'd uncovered was now valuable. The news channels were a cacophony of panic. Experts, who clearly never hit level 10 in anything, were spouting nonsense about dimensional rifts and the end of civilization. Meanwhile, I was checking my inventory. No obsidian blades, sadly, no legendary armor sets. Damn, but I did have knowledge. And in this new reality, knowledge was power. First things first, stats. I focused inwards, and there it was, a translucent blue screen only I could see, a familiar interface from countless hours of gameplay. Name? Lucas, formerly Kale. Level 1, welcome noob. Class unassigned, choose wisely scrub. Stats, strength 10, dexterity 12, constitution 11, intelligence 15, wisdom 13, charisma 8, seriously, work on that. Okay, not bad for a starting point. My years of strategizing raids and optimizing builds had clearly translated into decent mental stats. Time to pick a class, no brainer really. Class selection, Mage, duh. A surge of power coursed through me as I made the selection. I could feel the mana, a tingling energy I'd only ever experienced virtually, now thrumming beneath my skin. Time to test it out. Outside, chaos reigned. People were screaming, running, some even trying to drive. Bad idea. Those giant spider-like creatures from the Whispering Woods were not respecting traffic laws. I focused, picturing the most basic spell in my arsenal. Firebolt. A ball of flame erupted from my hand, incinerating a nearby mailbox. Whoa, I muttered, impressed. That's way cooler in real life. Okay, time for a field trip. I knew exactly where I needed to go. The newbie zone, just outside the city limits, was now crawling with low-level goblins. Easy XP and probably some decent starter gear. I grabbed my trusty backpack. Thankfully, it had somehow made the transition. Stuffed it with some essentials. Bottled water, protein bars, a first aid kit. Those goblins could bite. And of course, my laptop. Gotta keep up with the server updates, you know? As I ventured out into the chaos, dodging panicked civilians and the occasional stray goblin, I couldn't help but grin. Sophia, with her fancy job and her condescending attitude, was probably cowering in some corner, clueless about how to survive in this new world. Me? I was about to level up. This is my time, I muttered, a surge of adrenaline replacing the last vestiges of despair. Game on, world. Okay, newbie zone, here I come. Just outside the city limits, now a sprawling, monster-infested wilderness, I spotted them. Goblins. Small, green, and surprisingly vicious even in pixel form. Perfect for some early game XP. All right, let's do this, I muttered, channeling my inner Kale. No need for flashy spells just yet. Conserve mana, maximize efficiency. Basic strategy 101. I pulled a sturdy branch from a fallen tree makeshift club. Classic. No point wasting a perfectly good firebolt on a bunch of low-level grunts. Besides, melee combat would level up my strength stat, something I definitely needed. The goblins, armed with rusty daggers and a surprising amount of aggression for their size, charged. I dodged and weaved, remembering the attack patterns from countless hours of grinding. Swing, dodge, bash, the motions were ingrained in my muscle memory. For the Horde, I yelled, channeling some forgotten battle cry from my raiding days. Okay, maybe I was getting a little into it. The goblins fell quickly, their pixelated bodies dissolving into puffs of green smoke, leaving behind loot, just like in the game. Except this loot was real. Sort of. Score. I picked up a crudely fashioned leather jerkin and a small pouch of gold? Okay, currency hadn't made the transition completely, but it was close enough. Time to check my character sheet. Level up, name, Lucas, level 2. Skill unlocked, minor healing, passive. Sweet. Passive healing was a lifesaver, especially in the early game. I equipped the jerkin, not exactly legendary armor, but it offered some much-needed protection. All right, next up, I muttered, scanning the area for more targets. Gotta grind those levels, gotta get some decent gear, gotta survive. I spent the next few hours systematically clearing the newbie zone, my game knowledge proving invaluable. I knew which areas to avoid. The giant spiders were not newbie-friendly. Which resources to gather. Healing herbs were now actual herbs. Who knew? And which goblin camps were most likely to yield decent loot. This is just like farming in Ironwood Forest, I mused, as I looted a particularly shiny dagger from a fallen goblin chieftain. Except, realer. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the transformed landscape. Time to head back to the city, or what was left of it. The walls were now more like fortifications, manned by armed guards, presumably high-level players who had claimed the city as their territory. Halt! Who goes there? A gruff voice called out from the ramparts. It's me, Lucas, I replied. Level 2 mage, just clearing out the newbie zone. The guards exchanged glances. A mage, huh? All right, come on in, but keep your distance. Things are tense. The city was a strange mix of familiar and alien. Buildings were now adorned with banners and guild symbols. Shops were now trading posts, and the streets were filled with people wearing a bizarre mix of modern clothes and fantasy-inspired garb. I headed towards the marketplace, hoping to find a decent weapon. My makeshift club was getting old, and I needed something with a bit more oomph. "Looking for something, friend?" a gruff voice asked. I turned to see a burly man with a handlebar mustache and a surprisingly well-maintained blacksmith's forge. "Yeah," I said, "looking for a decent weapon. Something magical, if possible." The blacksmith chuckled. "Magical, huh? Those are hard to come by, but I might have something." He rummaged through a pile of scrap metal and pulled out a slightly tarnished staff. "Found this earlier. Looks like it used to be something special. Might still have some juice left in it." I inspected the staff. It was made of some dark wood, intricately carved with symbols that looked vaguely familiar. "How much?" I asked. 20 gold, the blacksmith said. I hesitated. 20 gold was a lot, especially for a newbie. But something about the staff, it felt right. "Deal," I said, handing him the pouch of gold. As I grasped the staff, a jolt of energy surged through me. The symbols glowed faintly, and I felt a connection to the object, a sense of potential. "This is going to be good," I muttered, a grin spreading across my face. "Really good." Okay, time to put this new staff to the test. I knew exactly where to go. The old abandoned subway station. In Elder Spire, it was the entrance to the Crypts of the Fallen, a beginner-friendly dungeon filled with undead beasties and, if you knew where to look, some pretty sweet loot. The entrance was, well, creepier in real life. The once familiar station was now shrouded in an unnatural gloom, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and something else. Something faintly rotten. "Lovely," I muttered, adjusting the grip on my new staff. Just like old times. I ventured into the darkness, the familiar layout of the station both comforting and unsettling. The ticket booths were now crumbling mausoleums, the escalators leading down to, well, who knew what awaited me in the depths? "All right, Kale," I said to myself, using my old in-game name out of habit. "Time to remember those dungeon crawls. Stick to the walls, watch for traps, and for the love of all that is holy, don't aggro the boss before you're ready." The first few chambers were easy enough. Skeletons mostly. Slow, predictable, and easily dispatched with a well-placed firebolt or a whack from my staff. The XP was flowing, my level steadily increasing. "Level 3, here I come!" I grinned, feeling the familiar surge of power with each defeated enemy. But the deeper I went, the tougher the challenges became. Ghouls, with their nasty claws and paralyzing screams, were a bit trickier. I had to rely on my knowledge of their weaknesses, using the narrow corridors to my advantage, luring them into choke points where I could blast them with spells. "Almost got you," I muttered, dodging a swipe from a particularly persistent ghoul. Just a little closer. And then I saw it, a glint of gold, hidden behind a crumbling pillar. The treasure chest, the one I knew contained the Ring of Regeneration, a sweet little item that would boost my healing abilities significantly. "Bingo," I grinned, blasting the ghoul with a final firebolt. "Time to get rich." But it wasn't that easy. As I approached the chest, the ground rumbled and a hulking figure emerged from the shadows. The dungeon boss, a skeletal behemoth, wielding a rusty sword that looked like it could cleave a man in two. "Crap," I muttered, my pulse quickening. This wasn't in the strategy guide. I had aggroed the boss early. Rookie mistake. But I wasn't a rookie, not anymore. I was a seasoned veteran of Elder Spire, and I knew how to adapt, how to improvise, how to use my knowledge to overcome any challenge. "All right, big guy," I said, raising my staff. "Let's dance." The battle was intense, a whirlwind of spells, dodges, and near-death experiences. The boss was tough, his attacks powerful, his defenses strong, but I had a few tricks up my sleeve. I used the environment to my advantage, luring the boss into narrow corridors, using pillars as cover, exploiting his slow movement to create openings for my attacks. I cast spells I hadn't used in years, remembering obscure combos and strategies from my raiding days. Remember that time we cheesed the dragon in the fire caves, Grognak? I muttered to myself, dodging a swipe from the boss's sword. Yeah, good times. The boss roared, his skeletal jaw snapping, his empty eye sockets burning with an eerie green light. I felt a surge of adrenaline, the thrill of the fight, the knowledge that I was pushing my limits, testing my skills, proving myself in this new reality. And then, with a final desperate blast of magic, I did it. The boss staggered, his bones cracking, his form dissolving into dust. The treasure chest lay open, the ring of regeneration gleaming within. "Victory!" I shouted, snatching the ring and slipping it onto my finger. A wave of power surged through me, the ring's magic amplifying my healing abilities, making me feel invincible. I emerged from the dungeon, the rising sun casting a golden glow on my triumphant figure. I was no longer just a gamer, a nobody, a failure in the real world. I was a survivor, a conqueror, a force to be reckoned with. And as I looked out at the transformed city, the streets now teeming with players and creatures, I knew that this was just the beginning. The game had just begun, and I, Lucas, the once mocked gamer, was ready to play. Word of my dungeon-delving exploits spread quickly. Turns out, conquering the crypts of the fallen wasn't just a personal victory, it was a public spectacle. Someone had filmed my epic boss fight, probably on their phone, because who didn't have a phone in this new reality, and uploaded it to the Elder Spire IRL forums. It went viral. Suddenly, I wasn't just Lucas anymore. I was Kale the Crypt Conqueror, a legend in the making. People were talking about me, whispering my name in the makeshift taverns and trading posts that had sprung up across the city. "Did you hear about that mage, Kale?" I overheard someone say in the marketplace. "He's soloed the fallen behemoth. No party, no raid, just him and his staff." "Yeah, I saw the video," another voice replied. "Dude's a beast. They say he's got some crazy skills." "Skills? He's a wizard," a third voice exclaimed. "He's got magic. Real magic." The attention was weird. I was used to being anonymous, a face in the crowd, a gamer hidden behind a screen. Now I was a celebrity, a figure of awe and admiration. And, let's be honest, a little bit of fear. "Hey, Kale," a young guy with a pixelated mohawk and a surprisingly shiny set of leather armor approached me. "You're the mage, right? The one who cleared the crypts?" Yeah," I replied, feeling a little awkward under his intense gaze. "That was me." "Dude, you're awesome," the guy exclaimed. "I'm a warrior, level 4. Mind if I tag along? I've got some sweet tanking skills and I could really use a mage in my party." And just like that, I had my first follower. And then more came. Other players, drawn to my reputation, my skills, my general badassery. Warriors, rogues, healers, they all wanted to be part of my crew. "We should build a guild," a level 6 rogue named Shadow suggested one day as we were clearing out a nest of giant rats, surprisingly tough critters in real life. "A strong guild, one that can protect the city, claim territory, maybe even rule." "Rule," I chuckled. "Dude, I'm just trying to survive here." "But you're good at it," Shadow pointed out. "You're a leader, Kale. People respect you. They follow you." He had a point. I had inadvertently become a leader, a figurehead, a king in this new gamified world. And the idea of building a fortress, a safe haven for my followers, a base of operations for our adventures, it was tempting. "All right," I said after considering it for a moment. "Let's do it. Let's build a kingdom." We chose a strategic location, the old abandoned stadium, now a sprawling ruin overlooking the city. It was defensible, spacious, and had a certain epic feel to it. "This is going to be our fortress," I announced to my growing band of followers, my voice echoing through the ruined stadium. "We'll call it Ironhold." The construction was a team effort. Everyone pitched in, using their skills and abilities to rebuild, reinforce, and fortify the stadium. Warriors hauled debris. Rogues scouted for resources, healers tended to injuries, and mages, well, mages mostly stood back and blasted stuff with magic. Mages are the ranged DPS, not the construction crew. I explained to a particularly enthusiastic warrior who tried to get me to help him lift a giant chunk of concrete. That's your job. Slowly but surely, Ironhold began to take shape. Walls were rebuilt, towers were erected, and the stadium was transformed into a formidable fortress, a symbol of our growing power. "This is amazing, Kale," Shadow said one day as we surveyed our newly built stronghold. "We're a real force to be reckoned with." "Yeah," I agreed, a sense of pride swelling in my chest. "We are." I looked out at the city, the streets now patrolled by our guards, the marketplace bustling with activity, the citizens looking to us for protection, for leadership, for hope. I was no longer just Lucas, the gamer, the nobody. I was Kale, the king of Ironhold, the leader of a new generation. And this was my kingdom. Turns out, even in a world overrun by goblins and giant spiders, people still craved entertainment. Who knew? The old TV stations were back online, broadcasting a bizarre mix of panicked news reports and Elder Spire highlight reels. "And now for tonight's top plays," a chipper news anchor announced, her perfectly coiffed hair a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding behind her on the screen. A troll was currently rampaging through what used to be downtown. Coming in at number 3, we have Flaming Fury, a level 10 pyromancer, taking down a chimera with a spectacular display of, well, fire. I watched, munching on some roasted boar, courtesy of our guild hunters, surprisingly tasty, as the pyromancer unleashed a torrent of flames, incinerating the chimera in a satisfying explosion of pixels and roars. "Not bad," I commented, "but he could have optimized his mana usage better. Rookie mistake." Shadow, lounging on a pile of furs, we were getting good at looting, chuckled. "You're such a critic, Kale." "Hey, efficiency is key in this new world," I retorted. "Gotta conserve resources, maximize output. It's basic strategy." The news anchor continued. At number 2, we have Swiftblade, a level 12 assassin, infiltrating the Shadow Guild's headquarters and stealing their... Oh my, that's a very valuable artifact. Impressive stealth skills. "Show off," I muttered, recognizing the assassin's signature move, a teleporting backstab I'd used countless times in Elder Spire. Classic rogue tactics. And then, the moment I hadn't expected. And finally, at number 1, the play of the day, the feat of strength and magic that has everyone talking. Kale, the Abyss King, conquering the crypts of the fallen. My jaw dropped. They're showing my dungeon run? The screen cut to the now infamous video of my battle against the skeletal behemoth. I watched, a mixture of pride and embarrassment swirling within me as I dodged, weaved, and blasted the boss with spells, my commentary, mostly a string of curses and panicked shouts, dubbed over with dramatic music and a voiceover narration. "Behold, the power of the Abyss King," the narrator boomed. His mastery of magic, his strategic brilliance, his unwavering courage in the face of, well, a very large skeleton. I groaned. This is so cheesy. But the world loved it. The comment section on the forum exploded, filled with praise, awe, and a healthy dose of hero worship. "Kale is the GOAT," one comment read. "All hail the Abyss King," another proclaimed. "Marry me, Kale," a third, slightly disturbing comment pleaded. My fame, it seemed, had reached a whole new level. I was no longer just a local legend. I was a global phenomenon, a symbol of hope and power in this new, chaotic world. "This is getting out of hand," I muttered, feeling a little overwhelmed by the attention. "Embrace it, Kale," Shadow grinned. "You're a star. The people need a hero, and you're the best damn hero we've got." He was right, of course. The world was looking for someone to lead them, someone to inspire them, someone to show them that survival was possible, that even in the face of overwhelming odds, there was still hope. And I, Lucas, the once mocked gamer, the nobody, the loser, who spent all his time in a virtual world, I was that someone. The weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders, a heavy burden, but one I was strangely willing to bear. I had the knowledge, the skills, the experience to make a difference in this new world, and I wasn't going to waste it. "All right, world," I said, looking out at the transformed city, the streets now bustling with activity, the people looking to me with a mixture of hope and fear. Game on. Life as Sophia knew it was over. Vance Industries, her corporate playground, was now a crumbling ruin, overrun by goblins and who knows what else. Her designer suits were useless, her power lunches a distant memory, her carefully cultivated network of contacts irrelevant. "This can't be happening," she muttered, huddled in a makeshift shelter constructed from salvaged office furniture and scavenged blankets. This is a nightmare." The world had changed, and Sophia, the queen of the corporate jungle, was utterly unprepared. Her ambition, her drive, her ruthlessness, they were useless in a world where survival depended on strength, cunning, and a knowledge of, well, video games. "I need to get out of here," she said to Melissa, her voice trembling with fear and frustration. "I need to find somewhere safe, somewhere civilized." Melissa, her once adoring companion, now looked at her with a mixture of pity and resentment. "Where are we going to go, Sophia?" she asked, her voice flat, devoid of the enthusiasm she once had. "The whole world is like this now." Sophia bit back a retort. Melissa, with her limited skills and even more limited knowledge of the new reality, was more of a burden than a help. But she was all Sophia had left. They scavenged for food, dodging monsters and avoiding the more dangerous areas of the city. Sophia had learned the hard way that giant spiders were not to be trifled with. The news broadcasts, when they could find a working signal, offered little comfort. The world was in chaos, governments had collapsed, and the only ones thriving were those who had adapted, those who understood the rules of this new, gamified reality. "The Abyss King," the news anchor announced one day, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and fear, "has led his guild to victory against the Orcish horde, securing control of the northern territories. His power is growing, his influence spreading." Sophia's ears perked up. The Abyss King. The name, it sounded familiar, vaguely familiar, like a whisper from a past she had tried to bury. "Kale," she muttered, the memory of Lucas's in-game name suddenly surfacing from the depths of her mind. The Abyss King. Kale. Lucas. The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. Lucas, her ex-boyfriend, the gamer she had mocked, the loser she had dismissed, the man she had stolen a future from. He was now the most powerful person in the city, perhaps even the world. "It can't be," she said, her voice a mix of disbelief and a growing sense of dread. "But it makes sense. He knew the game. He understood the mechanics. He was prepared." A wave of regret washed over her, a bitter tide of remorse and self-recrimination. She had been so blind, so focused on her own ambition, her own desires, that she had failed to see the potential, the strength, the power that had always been within Lucas. "I need to find him," she said, her voice filled with a desperate urgency. "I need to apologize. Maybe he can help me." Melissa looked at her, her eyes wide with skepticism. "Sophia," she said, "are you crazy? That's the Abyss King. He's a legend. He wouldn't even remember you." "He will," Sophia said, her voice firm, a new determination hardening her gaze. "He has to." She knew it wouldn't be easy. Lucas, or rather Kale, was now a king, a leader, a figure of immense power and influence. But she had to try. She had nothing left to lose. Her old life was gone, her future uncertain, her survival precarious. And as she set out, following the rumors, the whispers, the legends of the Abyss King, a flicker of hope ignited within her. A hope that the man she had wronged, the man she had underestimated, might offer her a second chance, a chance to redeem herself, a chance to survive in this new gamified world. Finding Ironhold wasn't easy. The once familiar city was now a labyrinth of fortified walls, guarded gates, and heavily armed patrols. Sophia, used to gliding through corporate lobbies with an air of entitlement, now had to sneak through back alleys, scavenge for scraps, and rely on her dwindling charm to get past wary guards. "Please," she pleaded with a gruff-looking warrior guarding a side entrance. "I just need to speak to the Abyss King. It's urgent." The warrior, his face scarred and his armor dented from countless battles, looked at her with a mixture of suspicion and amusement. "Urgent, huh? And you are?" "Sophia," she said, trying to project an air of importance, even though her tattered clothes and haggard appearance betrayed her desperation. "A friend. An old friend." The warrior chuckled. "Friend of the king, are you? That's a new one. Look, lady, the king is busy. He's got a kingdom to run, monsters to slay, loot to distribute. He doesn't have time for friends." Sophia bit back a retort. This wasn't the corporate world, where a well-placed smile and a flattering comment could get you anything you wanted. This was a world of strength, power, and survival, and she had none of those things. "Please," she begged, her voice cracking with desperation. "It's a matter of life and death." The warrior hesitated, his eyes softening slightly. He'd seen enough death in the past few weeks to recognize the genuine fear in her eyes. "All right," he sighed. "I'll see what I can do, but don't get your hopes up. The king ain't known for his sentimentality." He barked orders to a nearby guard, who scurried off into the fortress. Sophia waited, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. This was it, her last chance. If Lucas, or rather, Kale, refused to help her, well, she didn't want to think about the alternative. The guard returned, followed by a tall, imposing figure clad in gleaming black armor. It was me, Lucas, but different. Harder, stronger, my eyes burning with an intensity she had never seen before. I was no longer the awkward, insecure gamer she had dismissed. I was a king, a warrior, a leader. "Sophia," I said, my voice deep, resonant, a far cry from the hesitant tone she remembered. "What a surprise." "Lucas," she breathed, her voice trembling, I need your help." I raised an eyebrow, a sardonic smile playing on my lips. "Help? From me? The gamer you mocked? The loser you dismissed?" The word stung, a cruel reminder of her past cruelty, her blindness, her arrogance. I know," she stammered, her eyes filling with tears. "I was wrong. I was horrible. But I'm begging you, Lucas, please, I have nothing left." She looked around at the imposing fortress, the well-equipped guards, the bustling activity of the players coming and going. This was the world she had scoffed at, the world she had deemed irrelevant. And now, it was the only world that mattered. "You have everything, Lucas," she continued, her voice cracking with desperation. "Power, respect, a kingdom. I have nothing. I'm just a nobody." The word hung in the air, a cruel irony, a reversal of our former roles. She, the high-achieving corporate climber, was now the nobody, while me, the gamer she had belittled, was the king. "You said I wasted my time playing games," I said, my voice cold, unforgiving. "Now you're begging me to carry you?" Sophia's face crumpled, the carefully constructed mask of confidence shattering completely. She sank to her knees, her pride dissolving in the face of her utter desperation. "Please, Lucas," she begged, her voice barely a whisper. "I'll do anything. Just don't leave me behind." I looked down at her, my eyes hard, my expression unreadable. Sophia, the woman who had stolen my future, who had mocked my passion, who had dismissed me as a loser, was now at my mercy. The silence stretched, each second a torture, a reminder of her humiliation, her vulnerability, her complete and utter dependence on the man she had once scorned. And then I spoke, my voice devoid of any warmth, any sympathy. "Find your own way, Sophia," I said, my words a final, crushing blow. "I don't save the weak." I turned my back on her, my imposing figure disappearing into the fortress, leaving her kneeling there amidst the dust and the debris, the echoes of his rejection ringing in her ears.